Hello, hello. I am doing a book review for Six Crimson Cranes by Elizabeth Lim. I posted about this book, I think almost like yesterday or the day before. It was really quick. And I just finished it today, so I just had some thoughts that I just wanted to go over really briefly. But I gotta say, I was really surprised by how quick of a read this is, but let me get into the review. So Six Crimson Cranes stars Princess Shiori that you see pictured on this gorgeous cover. Probably one of my top fave covers of 2021. I think the ones we're meant to find was also another favorite, and there's a couple of others as well. But yeah, this one is really stunning. I'm jealous of the artist that depicted this. In any case, Princess Shiori. It stars Princess Shiori. She's in a kingdom with her six brothers, her father, the king, and her stepmother. Stepmother who is a little bit odd. So I believe her birth mom passed away a while back, and it was obviously really devastating to the kingdom, devastating to her father. And then he met this mysterious woman that is now the stepmother and the new queen of the kingdom. And Shiori does not have the best relationship with her, and she's also really the typical archetype of young adult heroines in these type of adventure stories. Really headstrong, stubborn, really hard to tame, kind of flies to her own music, kind of is at the beat of her own drum, whatever the platitude or the expression was for that type of wild archetype character. And her brothers also have their own interesting personalities, but she, as of late, has kind of felt out of sorts because she is betrothed to be married, and she does not want to be betrothed. She's 16 years old, so of course she doesn't. And she's just kind of rebelling and wilding out. In any case, there's something really odd going on with her stepmother, and she suspects that her mother might have some dark powers, which is forbidden in their kingdom, the idea of using magic. So that is a secret that is being kept within her stepmother, and it kind of comes to a head. So just kind of getting into some spoilers. Shiori kind of takes her mischievous wild side and starts spying on the stepmom, only to discover her secret garden. She follows her in, and then a spell has been cast, and then she ends up in this portal, this secret world, and kind of all is revealed. And she figures out that her stepmom's up to no good and that there might be some corruption at play. So she goes to warn her brothers about their stepmom. Stepmom finds out. It is not pretty. And spoiler alert, but not really spoiler alert because it's kind of in the title. Her brothers are then cursed by the stepmom and turned into six crimson cranes. And Shiori is also cursed, and she ends up having a bowl that is placed on her head that she cannot remove, that obscures her entire face. And she's basically told by her stepmom that you can never utter a word of what has transpired here, otherwise your brothers will die. She's magically poofed right out of the kingdom into this faraway land, far away from contact from her brothers, far away from her father. And now Shiori's left to defend for herself and then find out how she can reverse the spell that has been cast on her brothers that have turned them into cranes. Also reversing the spell that's been placed on her because now she has this bowl on her head. So the book is very much inspired by East Asian folklore and fairy tales, and it's really beautifully done. I have to say that I really enjoyed it for what it was. I gobbled the book up really quickly. I thought it was really fun. I think Shiori was a really fun character to run alongside with. There's interesting cast of characters. There's obviously her 6 brothers that we do get a sense of their relationship throughout the book. She does come into contact with them as cranes and as part of the weird spell. This is also getting into a little bit of spoilers. At nightfall, they kind of resume their original human form, but it's in the daylight, I believe, that they're cranes. And because of the parameters of the spell the stepmother has cast, they can't really communicate with the father. And the stepmother has such a strong power that she can manipulate and kind of make people forget. And then Shiori's dealing with her own curse as well. And she's in this faraway land and she has to fend for herself. And she can't speak a word of who she is and what has happened to her and her brothers without potentially endangering herself and her brothers. So it's just an interesting battle of wits. We also meet her betrothed, so her husband to be from a rival kingdom. And I thought their love story was really interesting. I mean, there's a dragon character that Shiori meets as well, and they kind of have a little something something. And I thought the entire mythos and the way the characters kind of played against each other was really fun. I really enjoyed it. It actually seems like a pretty fast read. I'm just gonna check my iPad really quick. But I think it's just a little over 400 pages, but it didn't feel like it like at all. It felt like it was like 200 pages. Like I was really immersed in it super quickly. And it was just something that was really engaging from first chapter. I found that I was wrapped into the story really quickly. And by the end, I was fully satisfied with it. Now, the book does end on a bit of a cliffhanger. I won't reveal that. I've actually haven't revealed a lot because there's a lot that happens. And in particular, I thought the love story was really interesting because it technically could have been a love triangle, but not really. But it's kind of hinted at. And it's just really interesting how it played out because she ends up, her and her betrothed, the prince that she's to marry, they technically haven't met. And when Shiori wasn't in this wild adventure, she was avoiding meeting this prince at all costs. But of course, once she's cursed, she inevitably ends up running into this prince while she's in this faraway land away from her kingdom. And he turns out to be a really sweet, kind stranger to her and helps her without actually knowing who she is. And it's just that really fun dynamic of the chemistry is there, and they can't be 100% honest with one another, but the connection is so strong and it's undeniable, which I thought was a really fun dynamic that the author was able to play around a bit. And her dynamic with the other character that's a dragon, I thought was just really cheeky and not overly done, and it probably will be expanded upon more in the second novel. But what's interesting with this is that I honestly thought that this story in itself could have been a standalone. Like I would have been more than 100% satisfied if this was like a standalone high fantasy novel. But apparently it is the first of its series, and it is technically left on a cliffhanger. So there's a few storylines that still aren't resolved, but honestly, I would have been happy with it being a standalone. It has a relatively solid ending, and you know, the chaos isn't completely out there to the point where it's like there's no point of return. You know, there's like a solid resolution to the conflicts, but there is that cliffhanger. Yet I just would have been happy. I don't know how else to say it, but I would just have been happy if it was a standalone novel. I just think it was strong on its own. It's really good. It's a really good fantasy. I liked it. It has a lot of the archetypes that are typical in YA fantasy, but yet to me it felt fresh. And I liked Shiori a lot. I liked Princess Shiori so much. I just liked her voice. And it just was an energetic read. It just didn't feel like it was slagging off at any point. I didn't feel bored. I just was engaged from start to finish. So I enjoyed it. Gets high marks from me, 2 thumbs up. Really enjoyable read, which I appreciate because I feel like I'm so slow. I'm doing so much better reading wise than I've done in 2020, yet I still feel like I'm not up to my reading speed that I was in 2019. Like I clocked in well over 50 books, and even though this year in 2021 I'm doing a lot better, I think I've read about 14 or 15 novels this year, which is a lot better than my dismal 2020. But yet I still feel like I'm having a hard time like fully getting back into my reading life how I was. So I really appreciate books where I get into it right away. So there's that. And I hope you enjoyed the review, and check it out if you're looking for a really digestible, easy, fast-paced fantasy novel to gobble up in a couple of days, if you're like me at all. That's it for me. Hope you have a great evening. Thanks for checking out my review. Peace.